Hola amigos, this is by Ellipse online learning platform and welcome to our video about 100 Spanish words that are specially designed for beginners. In this video, we will be introducing you to 100 essential Spanish words that you can use in everyday conversation. Spanish is spoken over 500 million people worldwide and is the second most spoken language in the world. It's a beautiful language that is rich in culture and history, and learning it can open doors to new opportunities and experience. Well, talking about me, I learned Spanish just because I wanted to, not for any job or opportunity, but accidentally. See, it opens a new doors for me where I can teach you on YouTube as well as on Ellipse online learning platform. So whether you're planning a trip to a Spanish speaking country or simply want to expand your linguistics horizon, this video is for you. We will provide you with English translation and Spanish pronunciation to help you understand and remember each and every word. Well, see, learning a new language can be challenging, but with practice and dedication, it can also be a lot of fun. So, join us as we explore 100 Spanish words and take your first step toward becoming a fluent Spanish speaker. Gracias por ver nuestro video. Thank you for watching this useless introduction, so let's get started. As I told you earlier, in this video we will be introducing you to 100 essential Spanish words that are categorized into 8 parts. This includes 10 greetings, 10 colors, 10 numbers, 10 relationships that are family members, 6 animals, 7 days and 12 months collectively become 19 days and months, and at last 25 actions. So let's really get started this time. Starting with 10 greetings. So the first thing I just want that you will do is take a notebook and ready for writing some points. I hope that you just seen basic Spanish videos out there, but I think that there are some rules when it comes to pronouncing Spanish. Therefore, I want to take a notebook and ready for writing some points or rules that are required while pronouncing Spanish words. Okay. And the second thing is that the text you will see in blue is in English and the text you will see in red is in Spanish, and the text you will see in yellow is category and its serial number for this video. So let's go. Here's the greeting number 1. Hello in English called hola in Spanish, and this is the point where we write our first point of pronouncing Spanish words. So the point is, whenever H comes in first of the word, means H letter comes in first of the word, then H remains silent and other words will be pronounced. So hello in English written as Hola, that is hola, but pronounced as hola. Okay, hola. Now let's go to greeting number 2. Greeting number 2 is goodbye in English called adios in Spanish. Okay, adios. Then greeting number 3. Greeting number 3 is good morning in English called buenos dias in Spanish. Okay, buenos dias. Greeting number 4 is good night in English called buenas noches. So here's the thing to keep in mind, that in good night it is buenas. Okay, A is after N in buenas, whereas in good morning it is buenos. O is after N in buenos. Okay, so don't confused about it. And good morning in English called buenos dias, and good night in Spanish called buenas noches. Okay. Now greeting number 5 is please. Please in English called por favor in Spanish. Okay, so the basic rule for pronouncing different languages words is that split their words into parts. Okay, so if it is por favor, beginners can split it into P-O-R and then F-A and then V-O-R into 3 parts to pronounce it, and then they can pronounce por favor. Okay, so this is how you can pronounce any word from any language easily. Okay. Now greeting number 6. Greeting number 6 is thank you in English called gracias in Spanish. Okay, gracias. And here's the second point to remember. Okay, so the second point is not done yet. There are a lot of things, comes for the second point, and that is Sometimes in English and also sometimes in Spanish, C is pronounced as C and K. Okay, sometimes C is pronounced also in K. So talking about Spanish, whenever there are 5 vowels, okay, there are 5 vowels: E, I, A, O, U. Okay, and we will see that whenever C comes before these vowels, how it is can pronounced. So whenever C comes before I, it is pronounced as C, as you can see in thank you, that is called gracias in Spanish. Okay, and later we will see that how C is pronounced whenever other vowels come just after it. Okay, but for now keep it remember that C is pronounced as C when I comes just after that. Okay, so basically the summary is that thank you in English called gracias in Spanish for this slide. Okay, now greeting number 7. Greeting number 7 is you're welcome in English called de nada, and to pronounce it correctly you can also just split these de nada into 3 parts, that is DENADA, so it becomes de nada. Okay, and greeting number 8. Greeting number 8 is excuse me in English called pardon. Okay, pardon in Spanish, pardon, PER once and DON at once, so it becomes pardon and you can pronounce it easily. Now I'm sorry in English called lo siento in Spanish. Okay, lo siento, and for pronouncing it correctly you can also split into 4 parts. Okay, LO at once, SI at once, EN at once, and TO at once, so it becomes lo siento. Okay, lo siento. And this is the second last greeting for this video, and here's the last greeting, that is greeting number 10, and that is a question: how are you? How are you in English called como estás in Spanish. Okay, and in order to write it, whenever a question comes in English, to write it in Spanish you can write first the reverse order or the mirrored image of question mark at first, just like you can see here, and then the word a question in Spanish, that is how are you, is como estás, and then the original question mark. So this is how you can write in how are you in Spanish. I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, and this is all about greetings. Let's see the another category, that is I think color. Let's go. Yeah, we're gonna see colors with the same template, that text in written in blue is in English and the text written in red is in Spanish, and also the thing or the text written in yellow is category with their serial number. Okay, so the first color is white, I think, yeah, white in English called blanco in Spanish, and here's we got our one fill up point for point 2. As I tell you that C is pronounced as C and K for some vowels, and in the last of the blanco there's C with O, and you can see that here C is pronounced as K. Okay, it means whenever O comes just after C, it makes to C pronounced as K. Okay, so you can write it here, O just after in the box of K. Okay, so summary is white is pronounced as blanco in Spanish, or white is called blanco in Spanish. Let's go with color number 2, that is black, and black is called nergo. Okay, you can pronounce it as NER and GO, which becomes nergo. Okay, then color number 3 is red, and here's get our point number 3, that is J is pronounced as KH in Spanish. Okay, red in English written as rojo in Spanish, but here's J is pronounced as KH, therefore it is pronounced as rojo. Keep in mind whenever you just see whenever you see J, try to pronounce it as KH when this is how it pronounced in Spanish. Okay, so it is rojo, red in English called rojo in Spanish. Okay, let's see color number 4, that is blue, and blue in English called azul in Spanish. Okay, azul. Now let's see color number 5, and color number 5 is green in English called verde in Spanish. Okay, VER at once and DE at once, so it becomes verde by collectively. Okay, so verde. And color number 6, is yellow in English called amarillo in Spanish. So here's a fifth point to be noted, that is whenever you see double L together, try to keep it silent while pronouncing it. Okay, so yellow in English can be written as amarillo in Spanish but pronounced as amarillo in Spanish. Okay, so note all these points. These points are important, and maybe later in this video you got to see more points, so stick with that. Okay, and let's see color number 7. Color number 7 is purple, and purple in English called morado in Spanish. You can pronounce it by splitting into 3 parts, that is MO at once, RA at once, and DO at once, so it becomes morado. Okay, now color number 8. Color number 8 is pink, and it is pronounced as rosa in Spanish. Okay, now the second last color for this video, that is brown, and that is color number 9. So brown in English called maroon in Spanish. Okay, maroon. And the last color, that is gray in English called gris in Spanish. Okay, gris. So this is all about for the colors. Let's see numbers. Now we'll see numbers, and with the same template, that the text is in blue is in English, and the text in red is in Spanish. Okay, and the text in yellow is a category with its serial number. So first number, that is 1 in English or called uno in Spanish. Okay, uno. And 2 in English called dos. 3 in English called tres. 4 in English called cuatro. And here's something that we can fill it in the point 2 that we left earlier. So the for cuatro, here we can see that there is C with a vowel U, and that U makes C to pronounced as K. Therefore U join O, where we get to know that how C pronounced with its vowels. Okay, so 4 is pronounced as cuatro. Now let's see 5. 5 is called cinco, and as we know earlier that I makes C to pronounced as S, therefore we don't need to put something in point 2. Okay, so 5 in English called cinco in Spanish, and we will see cinco have 2 C. I is placed earlier, also C, O is also placed earlier, so we can't put any of the points in point 2. Okay, so let's go further, and that is 6 in English called seis, and you can pronounce it perfectly by splitting this term into SE at once and IS at once, so it becomes seis. Okay, now 7 in English called siete. Okay, 8 in English called ocho. You can pronounce it perfectly by splitting into 2 terms, that is O at once and CHO at once. So CH is one word, not the different word, so CH becomes cha, and it pronounced as ocho. Okay, and 9 is called nueve. Okay, nueve in Spanish. And the last number, that is 10 in English called diez in Spanish. Okay, so this is all with the numbers. Let's see relationships that are family members. What do you call family members in Spanish? Okay, so you can call mother as madre in Spanish, and you can call father as padre in Spanish, as well as you can call son as hijo in Spanish, because this is where you can apply all the points that I tell you. In the starting, the first point is H is silent whenever it comes in the starting of the word, and the third point I think is J is pronounced as KH. So son in Spanish written as hijo, but it can be pronounced as IKHO, hijo. Okay, and daughter in Spanish pronounced as hija by applying the same two rules of pronouncing word in Spanish, that is H is silent and J is pronounced as KH. So it is written in Spanish at HIJA but pronounced as hija. Okay, IKHA. Okay, now relationship number 5, that is brother. Brother is written as hermano in Spanish but pronounced as hermano because H is silent because it comes in the starting of the word. And sister in Spanish called hermana. Okay, with the same first rule, hermana. Now relationship number 7, and grandmother in English called abuela. You can pronounce it perfectly by splitting into two terms, that is ABU at once and ELA at once. So it becomes abuela. And grandfather in English called abuelo. Okay. Now the second last relationship of family members you can called in Spanish is uncle in English called tío in Spanish. Okay, tío. And auntie in English called tía in Spanish, and that was the last relationship I told you for this video. Okay, now let's go to objects. We will see some objects, what they call in Spanish. So the first object is house in English called casa in Spanish, and here you can see that we got C with another vowel A, and this A makes C to pronounced as K, therefore we can pronounce it house in Spanish as casa. Therefore A will join O and U, which and these are the vowels which make C to pronounced as K. Okay, now see object number 2. Object number 2, that is car, and car in English called coche in Spanish. Okay, coche. Object number 3, book. Book in English called libro in Spanish. Okay, and object number 4 is notebook. Notebook in English called cuaderno in Spanish. Okay, cuaderno. And we already discussed that what U makes to pronounce C when it comes just after C. So U makes C to pronounced as K, and we know that earlier. So it's cuaderno. You can pronounce notebook in Spanish perfectly by splitting cuaderno into 3 parts, that is CUA at once, DER at once, and NO at once, and then mixed it all. It becomes cuaderno. Okay. Now object number 5, pen in English called boligrafo. Okay. Object number 6, paper in English called papel. Okay, you can pronounce it perfectly by PA at once, pa, and PEL, so it becomes papel. Object number 7, telephone in English called telefono. Okay, and computer in English called computadora in Spanish. Okay, and the second last object for this video is television in English called television in Spanish. Okay, with some context, television. Now object number 10, watch in English called reloj in Spanish. Don't try to pronounce it as reloj, it is the way how it is written, but it can be pronounced as reloj in Spanish, and this is one of the rule that I told you earlier. So keep in mind that watch in English called reloj in Spanish, and that was the last object. And for object, this video is end. Okay, now let's see some animal, what we call some animal in Spanish. Okay, so the first is dog. It is pet animal. So dog in English called perro in Spanish, and when I got to know that dog in English called perro in Spanish, then I understand that why perro is the most common name for dog after Tommy. Okay, and animal number 2, cat in English called gato in Spanish. Okay, gato. Horse called caballo in Spanish. Okay, because in the last point I think I just told you that double L is silent whenever it appears in the word. It can be written as caballo means horse can be written as caballo in Spanish, but it can be pronounced as cabao. Okay, cabao. Now let's see animal number 4. Animal number 4 is cow. Cow in English called vaca, in Spanish C is with vowel A, which makes it to pronounced as K, as we discussed earlier. So cow in English called vaca in Spanish. Okay. And animal number 5, pig in English called cerdo. Cerdo. Okay. Pig in English called cerdo in Spanish. Now you can see that C is with another vowel E, and E is the last vowel that we didn't discuss until yet. Now it's time to discuss it. So E makes C to pronounce like C, therefore it will join E in a table which pronounced C as C. Okay, so we recently fulfilled the second point totally, and now I hope you understand. Okay, so pig in English called cerdo in Spanish, and the last animal for this video is sheep. Sheep is also a pet animal for a lot of peoples, and sheep in English called oveja in Spanish. Okay, so as we know that J is pronounced as KH according to the rules, so it is written as oveja but pronounced as oveja. Okay, so that's it for animals in this video. Now let's see some actions. Sorry, I forgot. Let's see some days and months. So starting with the days, Monday in English called lunes in Spanish. Okay, lunes. Tuesday in English called martes. Wednesday in English called miércoles. Miércoles. Thursday in English called jueves in Spanish. Okay, Thursday in English called jueves in Spanish. Friday called viernes in Spanish. Okay. Saturday called sábado in Spanish. Sábado. And the weekend, that is Sunday, is called domingo in Spanish. Okay, and that's said with days. Let's see some months. So January called enero in Spanish. February called febrero in Spanish. March called marzo in Spanish. April called abril in Spanish. May called mayo in Spanish. June called junio in Spanish. No matter it is just a month or a year, in Spanish J is always pronounced as KH. Therefore June in English called junio in Spanish. Then July is called julio in Spanish. Okay, and August in English called agosto in Spanish. September in English called septiembre in Spanish. October in English, that is month 10, October in English called octubre in Spanish. Then November, that is second last month for this video or of the year also. So November in English called noviembre in Spanish. And December in English called diciembre in Spanish, and that was the last one. Now let's see some actions. So action number 1, to eat called comer in Spanish. Comer. Okay. To drink called beber in Spanish. To sleep called dormir in Spanish. To wake up called despertar in Spanish. To run called correr in Spanish. To walk called caminar in Spanish. To dance called bailar in Spanish. To sing called cantar in Spanish. To listen called escuchar in Spanish. Okay, escuchar. To speak called hablar in Spanish. To read in English called leer in Spanish. Okay. To write in English called escribir in Spanish. To jump in English called saltar in Spanish. To travel in English called viajar in Spanish, because J is pronounced as KH. How many times I told you, I don't know, but I hope you understand. And to see in English called ver in Spanish. To look in English called mirar in Spanish. To open in English called abrir in Spanish. To close in English called cerrar in Spanish. Here E is something that makes C to pronounce like L C, therefore it is cerrar in Spanish. To enter in English called entrar in Spanish. To exit in English called salir in Spanish. And the last 5 words for this video: to go in English called ir in Spanish. To come in English called venir in Spanish. To be in English called Easter or Sir in Spanish. There are 2 words to be in English called Easter or Sir in Spanish. Okay. To have called tener in Spanish, tener. Okay. And that was the second last word for this video. And now we will see the last word, that is to want, called querer in Spanish. Querer. Okay. So recently we complete 100 words in Spanish. I hope you like it, and you can subscribe for these type of videos, means videos regarding to different language learnings. We are here to taught you 9 different languages. It's a lot of fun learning them. And one thing I just want to tell you, that this is Ellipse marketing channel, so therefore we try our best to give you the good quality. It doesn't matter how much post we post in a day or in a month or in a week. And I'll tell you that you can follow us on Instagram, where we can upload behind the scene footages, how Ellipse works, and different things of stuff. So you can consider to follow us on there. And we are new on YouTube, so I don't know what to say for engagement. May you like what to do for engagement, so do it. And that's it for today. We meet again. Until bye then.